What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, I've got another discussion video. This time, we're revisiting the Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list from September that we got a week ago-ish. I don't know if it's exactly a week ago, but yeah. I think it was about a week ago. I've had a week to let it kind of marinate, let it sit with me, let me be able to actually think about it, and I think I have some overall thoughts because I gave you guys my initial reactions, but now that I've had time to think about it, I think I have some legit takeaways from the ban list and what I actually think and want to expect to see from the upcoming format, and so that's what we're going to be talking about here. So, without wasting too much extra time, let's just get into it. First and foremost, Emancipators are cool now. Like, I think with block, they're just like too degenerate. It's that deck that could already, without block, play through one or two disruptions fairly consistently and then still have block. And then block just gave them the capability of playing through three, potentially even four disruptions, because if they just have block as that last card in their hand, disgusting. Right? But I think the deck's actually kind of cool now. It's still a powerful strategy. People, like, low-key, like, I've been dueling this deck. I duel this deck a little bit since it came out of, losing block, and the deck's cool. It still plays through disruption between signs, extenders like Supplier, and Unexpected Die, just kind of like getting them ahead and giving that extra body and stuff, and Guardian letting them play through hand traps. All this stuff, they really are still a pretty good strategy, even at playing through hand traps. They just don't feel like they have that bustedness to them anymore. They're just good. And they might still be tier 1. I think they're maybe closer to tier 1.5, maybe even tier 2, because I think the other combo decks probably just have the edge on Emancipator now just because they didn't get hit like at all. But I do think the deck's much cooler now. I don't feel nearly as scared when I duel the deck because I'm not like, oh, please don't have the block, please don't have the block, please don't have the block. Now it's like, all right, you played through it, but that's just like what your deck does. Your deck's just good at playing through stuff. So yeah, I think it's actually just cooler now, like a cooler, more fun deck because it just doesn't have that degeneracy there. But it's still a legit deck. Do not sleep on this deck. And if you're a player of this deck, I think it's like arguably like more fun now because you just don't block people like and just sack them for game. So Emancipator is actually cool now. That's my first takeaway. Next up, the stuff that didn't get touched, and it's like blasphemous. Okay, Rockets or Dragon Link, whatever you want to call it. This deck's so here's the thing: is like there was a fair amount of like competitive players that even before the ban list argued that like Dragon Link was the best deck in the game already. And it's been around for well over a year, right? I don't know exactly. Probably more closer to like a year, maybe a little older than that. Then these new decks like Emancipator and Eldritch. But for some reason, this deck didn't get touched at all. I would have liked to see something like LP go to 1 or something. I don't know exactly what I would like. I mean, if Hulk gets hit, then this deck definitely takes a significant hit because then they're forced to just kind of play exactly how they did before, which is like, yes, they can still use LP and do Guard Dragon stuff to go to their own kind of boards, but their own kind of boards, they're good, but they're not insane. I mean, it's like the Unchained Abomination, Borreload Savage, and like Heavenly Spheres. That's like generally what they do with their own kind of boards like that. So they're good, but they're not insane. And now I think this will probably be the best deck going forward. That's like the takeaway here is without getting hit and seeing what other hits we did see, I think this deck is probably going to be the best deck going forward. It has a lot of extenders it can play. We've seen large copied lists, like 60 card lists that just are able to play 15 hand traps and still be able to go second somewhat decently. Like, it's scary. It's a scary deck. It's very powerful. It only needs 1 or 2 cards to get going, and then could have 2 or 3 extenders in the rest of the hand, which can be daunting. And yeah, just a scary combo deck that, yes, it uses Hulk, but it didn't really make much use of O-Lion and Jet as much as other decks did. So I think it almost gets away just almost completely scot-free. Very minor hit, and it doesn't really do enough. I think this will be the best deck going forward. That's my next takeaway. Next up is Dinosaurs. There's another one. Like, yes, there are some combo variants of Dinosaurs that I think played O-Lion because it wanted to do, like, Hulk stuff. But for the most part, this deck is like untouched. I mean, we watched Team Samurai X1 go to the remote duel championship or whatever you want to call it, and take first place. And he was not actually playing like a combo version. He was playing more of just like a pure like dinos do what dinos do, and just beat you up kind of deck, and it got the job done versus like top tier players from North America. So I think this deck could arguably be like in top 3 contention now as far as decks go. I think it always has been like a good deck that like, I don't know, like only specific players want to play. I know it has a fan base, but only specific players seem to want to play this deck. But I do think it's very scary. I do think it's a deck to keep an eye on, and I do think the next ban list will probably address both dinosaurs and rockets or Dragon Link. At least I hope so, right? Because otherwise, like, these decks could just stay tier 1 for a long time. And dinos have been like tier 2 for a long time. Like, they can top events. They can definitely top events. So yeah, I'm going to throw dinos in here, kind of going along with rockets. They weren't like arguably the best deck in the game, but they might be now. I mean, they really might be. They definitely have an argument for it with like Emancipator and stuff getting hit. So Soling over Raptor, I'm definitely leaving it here as another deck that's like probably now just guaranteed tier 1 because it just like did not see hits like at all. So yeah. All right, next up we go to Infernoble Knights. It's a cool deck. I actually like this deck, but I don't like the hand looping, so I kind of wish they had just like banned Smoke Grenade to the Thief to take away like the degenerate part of Infernoble Knights. But they're still a powerful deck, and while their hits happened, they're not that significant. I think all the hits do for a deck like Infernoble Knight is just make it slightly more bricky. It just makes it so like drawing Jet or drawing O-Lion was not the end of the world, but drawing Plague Spreader / like Vion Sphere is a little bit worse brick-wise for them. So that's just the only thing to keep in mind is just drawing those bricks is a little bit worse for them now. I don't know if they're playing more bricks entirely. I haven't seen like every single list that people have like evolved into, but it's fine. I think they're still a good deck. I think they're like fringe tier 1. I don't know if they were there even before, but I think they're good, and I think there's something you should still be worried about because it rips cards out of the hand. So scary, especially when it's targeted cards out of your hand, like hand knowledge plus picking the best card in your hand and sending it. Like, that's what's so scary about it. So yeah, Infernoble Knights definitely still a contender here. I would not be surprised if they are like a regular topping strategy over the next couple of months. But yeah, just another one that like technically it got hit, but they're minor hits. It just makes them slightly more bricky. But they have so many search cards anyway. They have a ton of consistency. I think they'll be fine. Which takes us to our last deck that didn't really get hit that hard, and is still probably going to be tier 1, which is Eldritch the Golden Lord, or just Eldritch in general. Yes, I think the best version of this deck now might arguably not be the best version anymore, which was Synchro Eldritch, just because you don't have the best Synchro starter that we had before. And I don't think Plague Spreader is the way to go, because like the best part about Jet was like, one, you could get a good mill for like an Eldritch card off of tuning, but also Jet got you to discard a card, so you could have just like sent 2 Eldritch cards. They both immediately float like that, turn into like something that like immediately replaces themselves on top of the synchro combo you just did. And Plague Spreader doesn't get the mill, and also puts the card from your hand back into the deck, so it's not nearly as good advantage-wise. So I don't think we'll see the synchro builds of this deck. I think we might just see people go back to what they were doing, which is like Invoked Eldritch or Dogmatica Eldritch, whatever's a strong like normal summon, single normal summon for this deck. I think that's what we'll see more of, but Eldritch itself did not get hit, so I don't think we're anywhere close to being done seeing just like Eldritch variants of stuff, which is fine. I think Eldritch isn't overpowered. I think what was overpowered is when they have like an insanely powerful engine to combine themselves with, and I think the engines aren't as good left now as the Synchro engine was last format. So I think this is like it is technically a hit for them, but I like that they're still here. I like that we're still going to see Eldritch variants. I'm just hopefully we see some innovation, some new stuff for this. But yeah, it's still around. It's still going to be tier 1. It's still probably the best control deck in the game, and yeah, no joke. Next up is Orchest. Orchest is a cool one here. I guess my takeaway here is that Orchest might have a chance now. Like, not that it guaranteed is back or anything. The problem is with Harp being banned, just Orchest doesn't have ways to extend through disruption, so they're pretty frail, and they struggle playing through multiple like hand traps or disruption going second. So that's my main concern there. If Harp were to come off the ban list, even to 1, that would be a huge buff for the deck. But like Rusty Barty's just a big help for the deck, because even if they play through a hand trap, if they can just put 3 bodies on the field, they don't even have to like go full combo. But if they can just get into Rusty, they can get 2 disruptions, which I like. It's a nice thing to have, because it means like even if you get stopped, if you can just get to Rusty, your opponent's probably out 1, maybe 2 hand traps out of the hand, so they're -1 or 2 out of their hand, and then you just like set 2 Fog Blades. And you're like, okay, you have 4 cards, play through 2 Fog Blades and kill me. A lot of decks can't kill through that, and then Orchest, as we know, can be a pretty good grindy deck over the course of multiple turns, putting on pressure of like, you gotta stop this, until you get things going. So I do think they have a chance. I'm not convinced that they're going to be back like that. Like, we just went over like 4 decks that were like essentially untouched and pretty scary. But yeah, Orchest is still here, still raring to go, and we'll see if it can actually hang with the big boys going forward. Next up is Burning Abyss, and this is a really interesting one. I'm really going to be curious to see how much Burning Abyss can compete now. I think it's kind of in the same place as Orchest. It has a chance to compete now. Maybe it'll just end up being Rogue, like top tier Rogue, but like, I don't know, like Burning Abyss or even PK Fire, whichever one you want to like include here. I think it has a chance. I think the engine definitely gets better with an extra copy of Tour Guide, an extra copy of Graph, an extra copy of Seer, and if you're looking at PK Fire, Rusty is huge. Now the problem with this deck is I'm not sure how well it plays through disruption, but if you're playing a weird, not like weird, but like a trap variant anyway, like you play through 1 or 2 disruptions and then you set 2 or 3 back row, like, okay, now you try and go. And then when your opponent can't go, we know that Burning Abyss can grind, especially these trap variants that are like designed to grind over the course of like a couple duels or a couple turns, and try and win duels that way. So I think we shouldn't be sleeping on the deck, but I'm also not entirely sure it's going to be there, like ready to compete. But maybe what it will take is Phantom Rage. You know, that's the last thing, is like, maybe PK Fire is legit after Phantom Rage. I'm not entirely sure, but I do think this is a deck that you do need to keep an eye on. Like, no joke. I think it's been a joke over the last couple of years that Burning Abyss is cool, but like, it's not legitimately good. Now I think it may creep into territory where it's legitimately good, and you need to be aware of it. So that's my next takeaway. And then the last thing is, like, Phantom Knights are coming, man. With Rusty now here, Phantom Knights are no joke. Whether it's going to be PK Fire, whether it's going to be like Phantom Knights, like Datascape, I don't know. Okay, I don't know if it's pure Phantom Knights, but this is not a deck to take lightly. Just because everything floats in grave, that like if you're negating stuff on field, they're just like sending 1 or 2 Phantom Knights to grave, boom, search. Even if they can't even get to Rusty, they could still just go, oh, you used 1 or 2 hand traps, I'll just set 2 Fog Blades and send it over to you. Same thing, like I said before, is just like, you're just sitting there and you're going, huh, well, that's tough. Well, now I have to play through 2 Fog Blades, even though I already hand trapped you twice. That's kind of annoying. And they just get such good, like, resource, great. They get great, like, 2-for-1s, just because, like, you use their card on the field, and then they get, like, a search from grave to like get an extra like card from everything. So I love that about them. I think they're a really cool deck. I'm not sure what variant's going to be the best going forward, but I do think this deck is scary, and I do think in 2 months, a little bit less than 2 months actually, we're going to be seeing this deck coming, and it's going to be big, especially if we see stuff like another hit. We see something like Link Cross actually get hit, and the combo decks get much worse. This deck could legitimately be scary, as well as maybe Dragoon. I mean, we saw the OCG ban Dragoon. They haven't had him that long. I don't think we're going to ban Dragoon on the next ban list, because Konami needs those sales. It's the highest, like, it's the most money card out of the Megatins, so I don't think Konami's going to ban it next. But sooner and sooner we're getting closer, and why can't this deck just make it anyway? So that's the other thing, is like this deck could just make Dragoon too, if they want. So, man, I think Phantom Knights look cool. I think a lot of people will be looking at them, and I think they could be a legitimate contender, especially given whatever the next ban list might hold. So, yeah, those are all my takeaways for the September ban list. I don't think I mean, like, I think I got everything, but, like, obviously, guys, let me know in the comment section down below if you think I missed anything big. I was trying to keep it specifically meta-based here, not talking about rogue decks like Paleos and ABCs. Like, yes, they get small buffs with their boss monsters coming back to 2, but, like, I was really trying to keep it focused on, like, mainly, like, top meta and what could potentially happen there. But, yeah, sorry I rambled a little bit. Video's a little longer than usual, but thank you so much for watching. As always, guys, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more discussion videos from me in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.